Welcome back to the Zero Waste section of your podcast playlist. In this episode, I'm going to recommend another app to help you track your finances as easily as possible. By the way, if you find this podcast valuable, then please support the show over on iTunes or Spotify, either with a short review, a star rating, or please just tell one of your friends about it. Thank you, and on with the podcast. Before this episode actually begins, I'm recording in a different location for the time being while I get myself organized in my new recording studio, so to speak. So please bear with me if you think the audio quality isn't as professional as it normally is. But here we go. Back in February 2020, I introduced some of you to a really simple, uncomplicated budgeting app. Today, I'm highlighting a second app to help you with tracking your finances. And just as a bit of a primer for new listeners, the aim of this podcast is to save you money. So thank you for downloading if you're interested in doing something like that. It seems like something everyone should do, especially during these times. Part of saving money, however, involves developing, at the fundamental level, some good habits with tracking your money. You need to take the time to record how you're spending and saving. I know some people might groan at that boring part, but as Jocko Willink says, discipline equals freedom. And it's very true. Basically, invest a few minutes up front for a greater payoff later. To help you with that, this podcast will from time to time help you by introducing you to such budgeting apps. This one, called Spendy, is an iOS app which at the time of this podcast is still on sale. If you like what I've said about it, go and grab it cheap while you can. Spendy itself is a lot more flat in design compared to Deep Pockets. You don't get the feeling that you're moving forward and backwards so much through the app. Considering both apps are both minimalist in how they function, it's good to see different interpretations with what you can still do in that style. Both apps don't burden you with a rich feature set, thankfully. They do the job as intended. But they are mobile apps after all, so don't expect something like Quicken on your phone. Besides the flatness, Spendy is monotone in appearance, with the dark mode being excellent on the eyes. And when I mean the eyes, I mean my eyes, even if I did like the colourful grouping in Deep Pockets. Spendy's defining feature for me, and has saved me during the last month where I broke my iPhone and couldn't get everything restored, is its automatic iCloud backup feature. I did a fresh install of Spendy on my backup phone and all my transactions were there, whereas everything in Deep Pockets was gone forever. Luckily, some things I'm tracking for this podcast in particular were kept in the cloud in the Notes app already, so it's not a total loss. To really understand how understated the app is, I realised only when sharing this product highlight that there are practically no settings, just avenues to customize, tailor the app to how you want to enter data as quickly as possible. Sure, the panel says settings, all you can really do is set the language and enable notifications. I really like that. The front of the app, when you tap on it, shows your transactions for the day and the add transaction function. Adding a transaction lets you work through the same calculator-like interface for spending and income. What I like here is the custom categories and how you can bring them closer in from the right off screen because you'd be using them more often than other categories. For example, my wages is a one-time a month thing. Why do I need it to be the first option? Whereas selling yogurt happens many times a month, and I want it left most instead of swiping to the left to reveal it. If your habits change, however, it's a quick tap and a swipe to reorder everything. There are really only three main screens. The front where you enter the app, the screen where you log everything, and then the stats screen, which as of version 1.03, I feel is still underdeveloped and missing some basic features. For instance, and this is the only knock against Spendy, there's no way to glance at monthly totals in isolation of everything else. I assumed this would be the most common way to track incomings and outgoings, and it would be there. So while you can get breakdowns of the categories per month, you can't just get a simple summary overall for a month. The main summary is a running total over the course of the lifetime use of the app, so it can be many months combined. I don't approach my finances in that way. I go on a month-to-month basis. The developer, however, is responsive on Twitter and has said he's working on improving the stats screen. I get the impression the stats were presented in a way that suit his way of thinking first. I'll have to wait and see if this changes, and considering the iCloud feature came in handy, I'll wait it out for a bit. There isn't much else to say, which is a good thing. It shows the simplicity on offer to just track your spending. It doesn't offer warnings if you went over budget like Deep Pockets, but if you're disciplined enough, you won't need them. If this little review has made you curious, then tap the link in the show notes. And if you enjoyed this podcast, please tell iTunes or Spotify about it. It's a helpful way to let the podcast grow and possibly get others to save their money. If you want to check out any of my other podcasts or my YouTube channel, please go to JonathanJK.com.